Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patience. So I am going to continue the tutorials on how to make this off the shoulder corset maxi dress with a puffy sleeve. So I've gone ahead to sew around the cup and now I'm going to trim the underbust area of the cup. So I've done that and this is how it came out. And I have also attached the boning on the front and the back piece, as you can see, and I pinned down one of the bra cup. So I sewed on both sides of the boning. Also, I have attached my bias tape. I sewed on both sides of the bias tape. So to fix my bra cup, I'll make sure the stitched parts are aligned and I'll pin it down. So after doing that, from the midpoint, I'll sew on this part of the bra cup all through and on the other side. So I've attached the cup and this is how it came out. So after doing that, I will join the front and the back piece together. So I've gone ahead to pin down the zipper allowance and I'll place both sides together this way and then I'll pin down the side seam allowance. And then I'll sew on the 2" for side seam allowance. So I'll do the same thing on the lining. So I've done that, joined the front and the back piece together, both on the fabric and the lining. So what I'm going to do next is to join the lining and the fabric together. So I'll place both sides together this way. I'll ensure I align it properly and then I'll pin it down. Also, I'll ensure these stitched parts are aligned. So I'll pin it down and I'll leave the armhole area and I'll continue to pin it down and ensure these parts are also aligned. And I'll stop at the 1" for zipper allowance. So I'll sew it by 1/2 inch all through and then I'll stop at this 1" for zipper allowance. So after I attach my zipper, I'll finish the neckline. I've done that. So I've joined it, as you can see. I've joined my cup and this is how it came out. So I make sure I iron it neatly. So that is it for the upper part. Now for the lower part of the dress, I'm going to be using this pattern paper to explain what I did on the lower part because the fabric is too big, is too much and the table is too small. So I'll explain it here. So assuming the waist measurement I'm working with is 12 inches. So I'm going to divide the 12 inches by 4. That will give me 3 inches. So I'll be cutting the front and the back piece separately and the fabric is folded, the pattern is folded into 2. So you can add as much as you can. So let's say I add 3 inches just to have excess that I will use to gather the waist. Or you can as well add 5 inches if you like. It depends on how full you want it. So I'm just going to add 3 inches. So my waist circumference will now be 6 inches. So I'll fold my fabric or my pattern paper on bias this way. So I'm just going to note or mark where the 6 inches is. And then I'm going to mark it all through this way. And then I'll connect the points. So after doing that, I'll now determine how I want the length of the dress. So from this line, I'm going to mark the length of the dress all through and I'll connect it this way. So that is it. So I'm going to measure the waist now, and what I have here is 12 inches, and that is for the front piece. So instead of having 6 inches, I have 12 inches so that I can pleat the remaining 6 inches. So that is what I'm going to do on my fabric, and my waist measurement is 36 inches divided by 4 is 9 inches. So I'm going to add maybe 9 inches or 8 inches to this 9 inches. So if I want to add 9 inches, that will give me 18 inches. So my waist circumference for the front piece will be 18 inches. So that is it, and I'll be using 4 yards for this. So I'll be using 2 yards for the front and 2 yards for the back piece. So assuming you want to use 5 inches, you want to add 5 inches, that will be 14 inches. So your waist will be 14 inches. So that is it. And for the back piece, I'm going to divide it into 2 because of the zipper allowance. I'll just sew where I want my zip to stop. And also the front piece is going to have a slit. So what I'm going to do is to divide the front piece by 3. So I'll do that on my fabric. So this is the front and the back piece. Now on this back piece, as you can see, I used my waist circumference divided by 4 plus 8 inches. So this is 34 inches. So I'm going to gather the rest. Now I'm going to divide the back piece into 2 for my zipper allowance. So after doing that, I'll place good sides together this way, and I'll mark where I want my zip to stop. That is on 9 inches. So I'll sew on 1 inch downwards to the hemline. So like I said, the front piece is going to have a slit. So I divided 34 by 3. So what I have was 11.3 inches. So I've marked the 11.3 inches on the waistline, and this is what I have. So I'm going to place good sides together this way, and then I'll mark where I want my slit to stop. That is on 10 inches. So I'm going to stitch on this from the 10 inches upwards. I'm going to use the longest stitch on my sewing machine anyway to do that, because I'll be attaching a tool to it before I stitch it. So for the tool, the total length of this tool is 63 inches. So I'll be marking out 45 inches for the lower part of the dress. So the length of the fabric is 43 inches, but I'll be making the tool 45 inches because the tool will be longer than the fabric. So after cutting it out, I'll use the longest stitch on my sewing machine to sew on 1/2 inch all through the 5 yards, and I'll gather it. So for the front piece, I've joined the slit area with the longest stitch on my sewing machine. I'm still going to lose it anyway so that I can add my tool before I join it together. So also for the back piece, I've joined the zipper allowance. So I'll be joining the front and the back piece together. So I'll place good sides together this way and sew on 1 inch on the side seam. So I've done that, I've joined the side seam together, and this is how it came out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to gather the waist. So I'll use the longest stitch on my sewing machine, starting from the zipper, 1 inch for zipper allowance. I'll sew all through with the longest stitch on my sewing machine and gather it up to 36 inches. So I've done that, as you can see, and I ensure it is up to 36 inches. Also, I have gathered the two, as you can see, and I also ensure it is up to 36 inches. So I'll be joining the two and the fabric together right now. So I'll lose the stitch I made on the slit. So now I'm going to join the two and the fabric together. So I'll pin it down together this way. That is the tulle and the fabric. So after doing that, I'll place good sides together and then I'll sew my slit. That is the 10-inch I marked earlier. So for the back piece on the zipper area, I'm just going to create a space on the tulle because I don't want any stitch on the tulle. So I'm just going to cut it to the zipper allowance I left. So that is it. So I've done that. I've joined the slit area, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is to sew on 1/4 inch on this slit area before I hem the slit. So to hem the slit, I'll just fold it by 1/2 inch and fold it by 1/2 inch again, and I'll hem the slit area. So that is it. So I'll join the tulle and the fabric together so that it can be easy for me when I want to hem the slit. So I've done that. I've hemmed the slit, as you can see. So on the back piece, on the zipper area, I've also gone ahead to stitch it together. That's the tulle and the fabric by 1/4 inch, so that when I want to attach my zip, it is going to be easy. So I'm just going to serge the hemline, and that is it. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to join the lower part and the upper part together. So I'm not going to add a lining to this dress, to the lower part of the dress. So I'm just going to attach it directly. So I'll pin it down and I'll make sure the side seam are aligned. And for my front slit, I'll make sure this dart line under the bust is aligned on the slit area. So that's where I want my slit to be. So I'll pin all down, and I'll also ensure this side seam are aligned. And then I'll pin it down and sew all through by 1/2 inch. So this is it. I've joined the waist, and this is how it came out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach my zipper. So to do that, I'll turn it to the wrong side, and as you can see, I did not join the lining all through because I'll be attaching my zip first before I hand stitch the lining. So to fix my zip, I'm going to place good side of the zip on good side of the fabric, that is on the 1 inch for zipper allowance. So I'll pin it down on both sides and sew my zip. So I've done that, and I ensure the waist area is aligned. So the next thing I'm going to do is to finish up my neckline. So I'm just going to turn it this way, and then I'll finish the neckline. I'll sew on top of the zip. So to have a neat finish, I'm going to fold it this way, as you can see, and then I'll sew close to the zipper teeth down to where I can. So after doing that, I'm going to bring it out, and then I'll hand stitch the rest. So I'll do the same thing here, bring it out this way, finish up the neckline, and sew close to the zipper teeth. So I'll cut the zip first before I turn it. After doing that, I'll be cutting my sleeve. So I folded my fabric into 2 and into 2 again. So I'll be cutting both sleeves together. So I'll just align it. After doing that, I'll mark my shoulder line. So after doing that, I'll mark 4 or 5 inches from the shoulder line downwards. So I'll be using 1 inch for my casing, elastic casing. So that's why I'm marking 5 inches. So I'm going to gather the sleeve. So on this shoulder line, I'll mark 10 inches because I'll gather the sleeve. So you can mark less or even more, it depends on how full you want. So on this line, I'm going to mark 15 inches. So I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance. So after doing that, I'll mark the full length of the sleeve, which is 25 inches. So I'll add 1 inch for my elastic casing also, that is 26 inches. So I'll bring down the 16 inches to the hemline and connect the points. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect the armhole. And then I'll mark the 1 inch for my elastic casing this way. And then I'll cut it out. So I'm also going to cut out the same sleeve on my tool. I've done that. So this is it. I've cut it out on my tool also. Now I'll be joining the tool and the fabric together. So I'll place good sides together this way. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to sew on 1/4 inch all through, like I did on the slit and the zipper allowance. So I'll sew on 1/4 inch all through just to make the tool and the fabric together. Also on the hemline, I'll sew by 1/4 inch. And I'll do the same thing on the other sleeve. So after doing that, I'm going to join the sleeve this way. I'll place good sides together this way, and I'll sew on the 1 inch for side seam allowance, and then I'll fold in my elastic casing, and I'll also fold in the elastic casing on the hemline. So I've done that, and this is how it came out. So I left 1 inch opening for that I'll use to pass my elastic band through. So, and for my elastic band, I use 7 inches. You can use 5 inches if you like. So I'll be using 1/2 inch on both sides to secure the elastic. So when I get to this end, I'll secure it with a pin. So I'll stitch on 1/2 inch here to secure the elastic band. So when I get to this other end, I'll do the same thing. I'll secure it with a pin, and then I'll stitch on 1/2 inch. Also on the hemline, I'll pass my elastic through. And I'll also use a safety pin to pass it through. So I added 1 inch for sewing allowance on the elastic band, so I'll join it together and stitch back the 1 inch. So I've done that. Stitch on the 1/2 inch to secure the elastic band, as you can see, and then I've also stitched back the 1 inch opening I left to pass my elastic through. So that is it for the sleeve. So right now I'll attach the sleeve to the dress. I'm just going to align this seam allowance and I'll pin it down. Also pin down this part, and of course there will be excess. So I'm just going to pleat the excess on the sleeve. I'll just pleat it this way. Also on the other side, I'll also pleat the excess. So I'll do the same thing on the other sleeve. Then I'll sew by 1/2 inch. So I've done that, as you can see, and I'm going to use my hand needle to stitch this lining part. So I've attached my sleeve. This is how it came out, and also finish up the neckline on the zipper area, and this is how neat it came out. So this is how the back is. As you can see, it came out really beautiful. So I'll put this on a mannequin. So guys, we have come to the end of these tutorials, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Kindly give this video a thumbs up, click on the subscribe button, and also turn on the notification bell to be updated when I upload a new video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.